pull a meal, and they ain't even have the goddamn bill.
念仏でも唱えとけ。わしもの惚れた女の前で酷にされたままじゃ。
おい、
なんじゃ。
あまり時間がねえ。早いとこ済ませてんだがな。
Hello and welcome everybody to Factual Opinions, the only place to get the correct opinion on the state of video games. And today we are taking a look at Sega's Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life is the latest game in the long-running Yakuza franchise. Originally pitched as a GTA-style open-world game, complete with the star-studded English cast and the promise of open-world hijinks in a modern-day Japan, what we ended up getting was a slow, methodical action RPG crime thriller with an awkward voice acting and tons of censorship. Luckily, the Yakuza franchise didn't stop there. As time moved forward, the franchise has grown and matured in terms of its marketing and its approach to the West. It wasn't all pretty, and for a while there it seemed like most of the games wouldn't hit our shores, but thankfully they have. Without them, we wouldn't have come to grow and appreciate its rich cast, its gripping story, and the exposure to a culture rarely shown with this much care and respect in America. At the center of these games is Kazuma Kiryu, the Dragon of Dojima, a feared Yakuza who has seen more death, betrayals, uprisings, and drama than Scorsese's entire filmography. Yakuza 6 picks up right after the end of 5, with Kiryu being hurt severely and forced to head to prison to atone for his sins. To sum up the rest of what led him to this point will require me to write a Tolkien-sized novel to explain it all. The Yakuza games, no matter how dense and impenetrable the story may have seemed, they always onboard new gamers in terms of the gameplay and story very well. Yakuza 6 is no different. It has a really neat little summary of the previous games that does the job well enough. Sure, you will miss some references, and little callouts to previous characters and side quests might fly over your head, but the game never punishes you for not getting a reference. They serve as nice nods and winks to longtime fans, but they never indulge in nostalgia, which could keep new players feeling out of the loop. Powering Yakuza 6 is the new Dragon engine. It looks great, and it's a nice upgrade in terms of gameplay and visuals over the previous entries in the franchise. It loses the smooth 60 FPS gameplay, but what it gains outweighs the loss. The change to the loading, for instance, helps improve the flow of travel and combat immensely. Fights are smooth and quick, with no transition screens for combat. Walking around Kamurocho has never felt more immersive. When you're walking around in first person at night, you can just take in the atmosphere, the sound of the hustle and the bustle. All of the lights and the life are presented so well you can almost smell the ramen when you're walking by the shops all over town. All of the characters, especially major players, come to life like never before, with hyper detailed faces and some fantastic action choreography, with references to older classics like Drunken Master and recent classics like The Raid 2. With this being Kiryu's last game as lead, a lot of excess gets trimmed off the sides, and in a lot of ways it's the leanest Yakuza game since the original. If you're coming off of 0 or have recently played Yakuza 5, some things are missing. Fighting styles from 0 are gone, for instance. Lots of mini games that have become staples are missing, and this time around you only play as Kiryu as he embarks on his quest to discover what happened to the only family he has left. The stripping down of combat systems is felt after a few hours in the game. You will notice how much less heat attacks it has compared to the previous games, and some of them are so specific that they may only come up every 20 or 30 fights. A Streamlined XP System also makes it much easier to level Kiryu than before. Very early on in this game, you will almost effortlessly crush regular enemies, even on the harder settings. Most bosses, while often adrenaline filled, they can end a bit too quick to live up to the hype that leads up to them. Interestingly enough, this didn't take away in any way for me. Some people will feel differently, but to me it felt right. This is an older, experienced Kiryu. It's hard to imagine any other character in most games who has been through what he has. All of his legendary battles, the shirtless fights, and the skill to make it through all of the Yakuza drama alive. It feels right when you walk down a street and menacing thugs try to attack you. Kiryu dispatches them with ease. For once, a more stripped down and simpler combat system feels like it matches up with the narrative tone they are going for. It works with the game in a huge way, and it highlights how he has become a legend. It even strengthens his enemies. When he meets a worthy opponent who gives him a challenge, it really emphasizes how serious of a threat they are. The clash of old and experienced versus young and athletic. The fighters in this game are great, and they are a threat when he meets one. All of the old versus new isn't just shown in the combat system. The narrative, the world around Kiryu, the combat system itself, and the ways he responds to every situation he's in has a gigantic old versus young mentality. New gang, new rules, new blood. The way it's presented to you and Kiryu as the focal point in this period is fresh, and it avoids a lot of the tropes that old versus new kind of stories can bring. Now, part of how deftly this game weaves between its gritty story and over-the-top sub-stories is due to the incredible job done by the localization team. It's one thing to do a translation and present the game for a different audience. The thing about the Yakuza games is how intensely Japanese they are. Everything from humor, culture, food, and jokes are very different than how we view things here in the West. Localization is often a thankless job. Think of the only times you have ever heard of a localization job, and it's almost always associated with all your base are belong to us, or any other dozen memes tied to a bad translation. This team deserves a ton of credit. They have gone through what must be a painstaking process in making sure everything that makes this game a love letter to Japan is presentable to somebody who has never dipped a toe in Asian culture. Korean, Chinese, and Japanese traditions and ways of life are all treated with class. All the writing hits home, and it draws you into this foreign and strange world like almost no other game has before. Whether it's the way they explain certain ways of life, or the tongue-in-cheek approach they tackle silly stuff like the WeChat usernames, it all fits perfectly. It brings the world to life so well that it feels effortless, but to think it was easy in any way doesn't give it the respect and admiration that entire team deserves. The Yakuza games have always been rich in things to do, and Yakuza 6 is no slouch in that regard. It does have less activities than the previous games, but the things it does have are rich, and they usually have a very fun and worthwhile payoffs for investing the time into them. Everything from playing Virtual Fighter 5 and running a cat cafe, join older classics like hostess bars and batting cages, some amateur baseball, and a brand new and exciting clan creator round out the game nicely. Sub-stories are back, and while this game has less of them, that doesn't stop them from being memorable. Some sub-stories will stand out amongst the series' best, and they're always fun to play through, even if it's just to see how crazy these situations are and how could they possibly end. The intense focus on Kiryu can make some of these side quests, however, feel less important than before. With the way the story unfolds, it can almost make indulging in some of the side quests feel trivial. That's no fault of the side content itself, it's almost all very well made and worth doing. The plot and the narrative are just so strong and focused that it almost compels you as a player to focus on that and dig into the task at hand and dive deeper and deeper into the main storyline. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, is a fantastic sequel and a great send-off for the Dragon of Dojima. It's rare to see a game that treats its characters with so much care. You will care about Kiryu, his close friends, and even his enemies. Every story beat builds, and the climax of his journey is a perfect send-off for him and offers a satisfying but emotional sense of closure. While most sequels tack on more and more, Sega has stripped down Yakuza to its essence, and that combined with the localization team's masterclass effort helps cement Yakuza 6 as a classic that won't be forgotten anytime soon. A 5 out of 5 and a sure contender for Game of the Year. That's my review of Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. If you liked the review, please like, comment down below, and please hit that subscribe button and check out the full written review at ntfgaming.com. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, everybody.
Diamond